Hey, and welcome to Just Another Effing Podcast. I am one of your hosts. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. It's for this week only the JFC, James from Calgary.
And you may know me as the excellence of execution. You may know me as your Canadian hero. I'm Canada Dry.
So
and
hopefully,
I would just like to take this time now to make JFB an honorary Canadian right here, right now, baby.
yeah, poutine and Tim Hortons, baby. I love Canada, man. It is a beautiful country, healthcare, and no school shootings, so you can't beat it.
I think Bret Hart said, Canada, where you can go on any corner and not get shot.
So those who haven't guessed, our episode is, of course, about the excellence of execution, the immortal, if you will, Bret Hart. Nothing can take this guy down, not even a stroke. That's how tough as nails that this guy is. But before we get into that, we do have little news. Not a lot of stuff happened in the wrestling world this week. Congrats to Matt Cardona, otherwise known as Zack Ryder in the WWE, who at GCW Homecoming won the GCW heavyweight title and then was pelted with beer cans and water bottles. For those who don't know, JCW is a deathmatch organization.
GCW.
What? Huh?
You said JCW.
No. Oh, yeah. GCW. Sorry. It's not Juggalo Championship Wrestling. It is GCW. Did you watch it at all?
I saw some of the clips after in our after wrestling chat. I know that Brian Bella and Stu were watching, so they were just going off and on. And so I was hearing all these comments. And
yeah. Also in Tokyo, not just the Olympics is happening. Wrestle Grand Slam happened. Robbie Eagles won the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. And we have new tag team champions in Zack Sabre Jr. and Taguchi. So congratulations to them. Tanahashi did lose to Shingo for the IWGP Heavyweight. So
just backing up here a bit to the GCW Matt Cardona before we move on to something else. I saw the clips and gosh darn it, that was brutal. Did you see something?
It's I'm not a deathmatch fan.
I'm not a deathmatch fan either. And I hope they don't go over the top with him being on Dynamite this week in Chris Jericho, the Labors of Jericho.
Yeah. I strongly hope they don't. Yeah, it's GCW, CZW, FMW in Japan are downright vicious. I mean, it's disgusting the amount of bloodshed that there is at these matches. It's mind-boggling.
Well, you remember what happened to David Arquette in his match against Nick Gage? Like,
yeah, he nearly cut his jugular. Yeah, he almost bled out. So, I mean, we'll see. You know, Nick Gage to me is a decent wrestler. He's not a bad wrestler. He's got some decent moves, but you know, he doesn't really. I don't think he has to rely on staple guns and forks in order to win. But when you're wrestling in death matches, that's the tools of your trade. So, did you hear about any possible rumors that have been happening this week in the wrestling?
Well, yeah, wow. Daniel Bryan, they say, is officially signed.
Yep.
They also say CM Punk is officially signed, but those are like, it hasn't been from the company. It's from all these people connected, kind of. And the band who does the theme song for Punk, Living Color, Cult of Personality, followed AEW, Daniel Bryan, and on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah. Well, what's funny too is this morning, somebody checked CM Punk's Twitter account, and he is following AEW. So, you know, what's so funny is AEW knows how to work the internet crowd. They know how to work the internet wrestling community to a fervor. you know, I mean, when they were trying to figure out who the Exalted One was, they knew all along, but man, they would lay out.
Oh, they worked it with Matt
Oh,
Hardy
yeah.
and everyone.
Oh, it's Matt Hardy. Oh, it's going to be this guy. Nobody saw
Yeah, it was
Brody Lee being the one that would be eventually the Exalted One. So I don't know.
I think they're doing this on purpose. You want to leak out your own cool, like get everyone anticipated for when he finally shows up. It doesn't need to be a surprise.
Yeah.
They're pretty much side promoting it on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I love, Bryan Danielson. I love CM Punk. I'm a huge Punk mark, always have been, and probably always will be. I think what's really sad out of all of this is there are people who are openly threatening Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, and wishing ill of him.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that. Like these people are so into the WWE logo and product that I don't understand it. That boggles my mind for someone to be into a corporation, loyalty to a corporation,
$1 billion corporation.
Yeah, loyalty to a corporation. Like, I will always be about the athletes.
Yeah,
not the Nike logo, right?
All I gotta say is this: everybody talks. All the WWE marks always talk about how the WWE made Punk and made Bryan Danielson. I beg to differ, and here's the reason why. Both those guys got their start in indie promotions. Both of them really made their names and got to where they were because of Ring of Honor. The Summer of Punk, which was the summer leading up from Ring of Honor to Punk's inevitability to WWE. Bryan Danielson had the same summer as well. Guys.
What I'd like to say about Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, he broke the glass ceiling. He did it along with the fans, and they put him there. They didn't want him there.
Yeah, no. I mean, he, contrary to popular belief, he's the one that came up with the Yes Movement, not WWE. Yeah. He's the one who pitched it. He's the one who got it through Vince. Yeah. These guys were made men before they got to WWE. Now, did they get more eyes on them since they've been in the WWE? Of course. Yeah.
And there's more people. Deserves the credit.
Yeah. I mean, they WWE puts millions and millions of eyes on their product, not the same for Ring of Honor. They're a very mid-tier promotion, but, these guys were made men. There was a reason why WWE signed them, and that's because of what they did in Ring of Honor, Dragon's Gate, DDT, all these other smaller promotions. That's the reason why. So, but yeah, I guess we'll see. All Out, possibly, maybe.
Can we move this Welcome to the Dungeon thing here?
Yeah, we can move it.
There, we can see our shirts. There we go.
Yeah. For those who are watching at home on Thursday, I am, of course, wearing the Hitman, Bret Hart. He's got the Hart Foundation. That's who we're talking about. We are talking about the man, the myth, the legend, otherwise known as Bret Hart.
The leader of the Hart Foundation.
Yes. So just to give you some really quick details, he was born Bret Sargent Hart. How cool of a name is that? Sargent as a middle name? That's bad. He was born on July 2nd, 1957 to Stu and Helen Hart, the patriarchs and matriarch of one of the greatest wrestling families ever, the Hart family. He was one of 8 boys. He also had 4 sisters. All the boys eventually wrestled. All the women married wrestlers. So that is a family deep, not just in Canada, but we're talking worldwide, entrenched in the wrestling business.
And if they're big anywhere in the world, in the States, they're royalty in Canada.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. They could run for any position and get it in a heartbeat.
Heartbeat?
A heartbeat. Yeah, Bret and Owen are probably the 2 more well-known of the Hart brothers to win, to really make a name for themselves in wrestling. Bret was a very good amateur wrestler, both in high school and college. Almost went to the Commonwealth Games and possibly could have gone on to the Olympics, but chose not to because he was afraid it wouldn't lead into anything, and he had eventually become a school teacher or a gym teacher. While he was in college, he studied filmmaking. I had no idea that he was studying to become a filmmaker. That's cool because JFB or JFC is a filmmaker.
You could be JFB again.
He started in 1976 as a referee in his father's promotion of Calgary Stampede Wrestling. He debuted in 78. He was a fill-in. He filled in for a wrestler that was sick. His dad asked him to come in and wrestle. And then him and his brother Keith actually became Stampede International Tag Team Champions four times. 4-time tag team champions. He jobbed when he needed to. He was once said, "No one takes a shit kicking like Bret Hart." His accomplishments in Stampede Wrestling, he won tag titles a total of 5 times. He was a British Commonwealth mid heavyweight twice and 6-time North American heavyweight champion. As always, back in that day, WWE was buying up territories like they were going out of style, and they did buy Stampede Wrestling and the contracts of several of the wrestlers, including Bret, Jim Neidhart, Owen Hart, and several others. So
let's just take a pause here for that.
Yeah,
a little bit is that Stu Hart never got the money.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's the story is he never fully got the money.
And so because Bret was such a big star, Stu never wanted to say anything to kind of put a wrench in Bret's climb to superstardom. So
yeah,
and Owens as well.
Yeah, and it's well known that Vince is a very calculated and very smart businessman. There's nothing to take away from Vince, no matter how you feel about Vince. He's a good businessman. I mean, he runs $1 billion corporation. Dumb people don't do that. Only smart people do. So Bret eventually joined WWE in '84. Do you remember watching Bret wrestling in Calgary and Stampede?
No, I didn't become a Bret Hart fan until much later.
Yeah. I went on YouTube and
I've seen it later on. I've watched some older stuff, and I loved his match with Dynamite Kid in Stampede Wrestling.
Absolutely. Him and Dynamite Kid were just freaking amazing. It was like those two were made to wrestle each other in Bret's earlier career. But a lot of what you would see in the mid to late 90s, and even in the early stuff, you saw in Stampede, the sharpshooter, you saw the chain wrestling, you saw the technique that would be synonymous with Bret Hart.
So so he debuted as Cowboy Bret Hart.
He did, and then told Vince he didn't want to do it.
So did you actually remember seeing that? Did you ride to the ring on a horse?
I never saw it. Did you?
No, I heard about it later, but I'm like, I wish I would have seen that. But
he told Vince, if you're going to be a cowboy, you better be a real one, and pretty much exited that gimmick real quick because he actually had a tag team debut in '84 with Dynamite Kid, and then solo debuted against Aldo Marino, which I actually found this match on the September 29th episode of Superstars of Wrestling. I found it deep.
So he wasn't Cowboy yet.
At this point he was still Bret Hart. He wasn't the Hitman. He didn't have the traditional gear. But Aldo Marino, what do we know about Aldo Marino? Nothing. That guy did not last. But Bret looked really good. You saw the technical wrestling at its best. I mean, I had a deep dive on YouTube.
Did Bret win that match? Did he win the opening contest?
He did. He did win it against Aldo.
Because obviously they saw something in him too.
Yeah. So eventually he started getting the nickname the Hitman. He joined the heel stable, the Hart Foundation, with Jimmy Hart and with Jim the Anvil Neidhart and a couple other guys too, who I don't really remember who they were. And eventually they just became the Hart Foundation was just Jimmy Hart and Jim the Anvil and Bret. It was so do you know where the excellence of execution came from? Who gave that moniker to him?
I think it was Vince, wasn't it?
No, it was Gorilla Monsoon.
Oh, the Gorilla.
Yes.
Gorilla had a lot of those that he just had these little.
Oh yeah, Gorilla Monsoon. For those who don't know, was a huge wrestler in the late '60s, early '70s. Was probably one of the best commentators with Bobby Heenan, and would come up with these really great nicknames. And that's when he came up with the excellence of execution, because Bret he was excellent at executing his moves so precisely.
So he was still with the tag team when he got this name.
Yes, he was still in the tag team. Yeah. So he had the Bret the Hitman Hart, and then he was known as the excellence of execution. He wore sunglasses. This is how the sunglasses started, because he was shy and was very nervous when it came to cutting promo. So he would wear his sunglasses to hide the nervousness.
Now, when I was watching them, my brother got me into wrestling.
Yeah.
So I was watching the Hart Foundation. I don't remember who was on TV against them. And my brother comes along and he points at Bret and he goes, "That guy is going to be a major star. Watch."
Yeah.
Like, really? I had no clue. And sure enough, my brother was right. And I told him later, he's like, "Holy shit, I was right."
I knew after watching like guys like Macho Man and watching Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair, and watching a lot of these territory guys, that I knew just by watching Bret that he was going to be huge.
Well, he had the look. He had the
he wrestled.
Look.
Yeah, he wasn't showy. He didn't have pyro. He had a simple walk-in entrance. I just knew there was something about him.
You mentioned he was shy.
Yeah.
Anvil was so important to him in those early days, because Anvil just had this boisterous personality, laughing and pulling his goatee. And I think it really helped Bret kind of. He was always leading the promo, and then Bret would kind of say something. But I think it really helped Bret come out of the shell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about two very polar opposite tag team, and we talked about this in our tag team episode, which was actually episode 20. The great tag teams are always seem to be polar opposites of each other. Every once in a while, like the Road Warriors, they were very much the same together, but Jim and Bret were so dichotomically different, between a very reserved Bret Hart and a very over the top Jim Neidhart. It just worked extremely well, and especially in the wrestling, Neidhart was he was the big bruiser, he was the big body, he was the power, and Bret was.
I remember hearing a story from Bret. So they had just finished a show in New York, and they were with King Kong Bundy in a car, and the crowd was just. They came out of the arena, and the crowd was just pelting Anvil and Bundy with just objects and things and drinks and stuff. But Bret was getting all the girls loving on him, and Bundy and I heard, "Oh, this is bullshit."
Bundy, man, we should do a show about Bundy, because I think Bundy is a very unique character. Yeah. His late run in WWE was not as good as his early stuff, but with Bret, I mean, he, not only was he part of a great tag team, he was starting to get solo momentum. He did his first real program was with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Bret has said that this is one of his best matches and one of his favorite matches. At the Boston Garden, he did lose to Steamboat. He lost again in prime time against Steamboat. But that's when he started giving himself his moniker, which was the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
So they broke it up as a tag team at this point?
No, they were still tag teaming. But
I think they won a trial. They did a trial solo with him.
Yeah.
I guess they put him back with him.
Yeah. You start seeing him slowly becoming a solo act, and Neidhart kind of coming down the ramp with him and being there just as muscle. But he got that moniker, the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, from the movie The Natural.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so I went and rewatched the Natural, and sure enough, they talk about Roy Hobbs as the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And Bret, and Bret was able to go ahead and back that up because he never injured another wrestler intentionally or on purpose. He was always at every show, with the exception of one time.
That thing about Bret being safe.
Oh yeah,
that is something he's very, very, very proud of.
Oh yeah,
that he never injured a single wrestler in his whole career, and that's his number one thing that he's proud of. And for that to be your number one thing, that shows character.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you're talking about professional wrestling, the one thing that they teach you at a good school is you always have to protect the other person. It's all about trust, and you have to put your trust into another person's arms and hands and legs and feet. And, that was really where Bret differentiated himself from other wrestlers. If a guy got hurt, it wasn't because Bret did it. It was something accidental, not to say that nobody's ever injured Bret, because Dino Bravo broke his chest.
Yeah.
But
he had to get a count out loss on that. Just had to roll out of the ring because he didn't want to lose full out to Dino at that time.
Yeah. And what was really cool was, he never missed shows. There was one time he missed a show, and that was because of a travel issue. Every time he's been out of the ring or out of wrestling, it's been
injury related.
Yeah, it's either injury related or it was to build up a storyline. And then he never denied losing to an opponent. The only time that he ever really refused to lose to an opponent was the Montreal Screwjob.
And that had all sorts of connotations.
So he always was willing to lose to a wrestler if it made sense for the story. And the only time he refused was against Shawn at the Survivor Series. And of course, that's the infamous Montreal Screwjob. From 84 to 91, that's, to me, that's really the genesis. He comes in as a tag team. They were tag team champs.
Let's talk about his match against Mr. Perfect to win.
Well, we can get to that because that's the IC.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, that's the IC. He was Intercontinental Champion from 91 to 92. Let's talk about it. So, Mr. Perfect.
I want to kind of hint on what we said before, is that you got the two safest workers in the history of the business right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bret absolutely loved working with Curt Hennig.
Oh, yeah.
He said that was his favorite wrestler to work with. And, the flow between those two, unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. If you want to watch a technical, pure wrestling match, SummerSlam 91, where he beat Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental, is like, if you want to become a professional wrestler and you decide that I want to be a technical wrestler, not a brawler or a high flyer, that's the match you watch. That is the match that shows you how to be a technical wrestler. Chain wrestling at its best, period.
The neat thing about that match is Curt Hennig was hurt.
Yeah.
And he told Bret, don't worry, I'm going to put you over and I'm going to do this match for you.
Yeah.
And Bret really appreciated that about Curt, is that he could have just, went through the motions, but he wanted to have a great match with Bret, and I really admire Curt Hennig as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Perfect, gone way too soon from our world. Was number one, Mr. Perfect was a great gimmick. Perfect at everything, and holy cow, his father, I can't remember his dad's first name. Huh?
Was it Jim? Larry the Axe Hennig.
Yes, that's it. Yes. And he was a brawler, and he was a physical prowess. Curt was very much a technical wrestler. And you saw it. I mean, he took pride in being known as probably one of the best technical wrestlers of all time.
So one of the matches I'd recommend if you've never seen Bret Hart wrestle.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you? Give your head a shake. But the other thing is go look up that Intercontinental win on YouTube or Peacock and watch that match between Bret and Mr. Perfect. It was phenomenal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He also won King of the Ring that year too in '91. That was his first King of the Ring. It was non-televised, obviously, but he did win King of the Ring. He eventually lost the Intercontinental title to the Mountie, who always gets his man, and then got it back at WrestleMania 8 against Piper. This is the only one of maybe a handful of times that Piper lost clean. With his shoulders on the mat.
Piper was big on not like he didn't want to lose to anyone.
No.
it wasn't until later that he understood. Like he had an issue with losing. He didn't like putting people over until later on in his career he really understood it. And so when he put Bret over, Bret really appreciated what Piper did to pass the torch to him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, what's really funny is, obviously it was a buildup. Piper's a family friend. They're supposedly they're distant cousins. So he's always been a family friend of the Harts. So I would think he probably was doing this to put Bret over as a favor to Stu and to the Hart family. He then lost the belt in '92 to Davey Boy Smith, who – I mean that.
Okay, so we got some
mother-in-law.
We got some Bret Hart info on this one.
Yeah.
So what happened here is don't want to really put any bad light on Davey Boy, but he was pretty addicted to drugs at this point.
Yeah.
And Bret went to go find him to orchestrate this match, and for weeks and weeks he couldn't.
Yeah,
he couldn't match up with him. And so Bret had orchestrated the whole match, and it wasn't until the day before SummerSlam that he was finally able to connect with Davey Boy. And he pretty much led that whole match from the start to finish.
Yeah.
And it was such a great match. What I like is that Davey Boy got the win. And he thought it was his push.
Yeah.
But it put Bret over the moon.
Yeah. Obviously, it was setting up Bret for something much bigger than where he was and with the IC title. It's also funny because during his reign as the Intercontinental Champion, he was involved with Shawn Michaels in the first ever ladder match. So the first ever known ladder match was between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
And it was actually Bret who pretty much brought this match to WWE.
Yeah. Yeah.
They did this a lot in Stampede Wrestling.
Yeah, they do it a lot in Stampede Wrestling. That was one of their big gimmicks.
And I really think what Bret did for that Intercontinental title, he really elevated it to headline SummerSlam.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For the IC belt.
Yeah.
For
a mid-tier belt. He made it seem like it was the only belt that mattered.
And I love that.
Yeah. And if you look at the history of the Intercontinental Championship, it's the same as it is in the New Japan Pro Wrestling. Your heavyweight champion is not necessarily your best wrestler. It just happens to be your most over guy. But the guys who held the IC belt in WWE are the same guys that held it in the IWGP Intercontinental belt. And that is pure wrestlers. Technical wrestlers, guys like Shinsuke Nakamura, like Naito, and then when you go and look at WWE, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Kurt Hennig, Macho Man, Honky Tonk is probably the exception to the rule. Poor Honky.
And the Mountie.
And the Mountie, yeah. But most of the time, the IC belt was held by your more decorated, well-deserved technical wrestlers. It was considered to be the wrestler's belt as opposed to the championship. So in 92 through 96 is what I like to call the dawn of a new era, because this is when Bret starts really taking off solo, and this is when he starts becoming your WWF heavyweight champion. He actually beat Ric Flair in an untelevised match in Saskatchewan. They would release it on home video, Coliseum. And his first defense was Papa Shango on Saturday Night Main Event 31. I've seen the tape of Bret beating Ric Flair. This was at a time when Flair was not probably at the best that he could have been. He had a lot of issues, home and drinking. So it kind of makes sense that they took the belt off of Flair and gave it to Bret, just because Flair was not wrestling very well.
And let me say that Flair was not happy having to give that belt up to Bret.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, Flair is another guy like Roddy Piper who doesn't want to lose to people. And, you know, I consider Flair to be one of the top 5 greatest of all time. I don't think there's a wrestler out there with the ability to wrestle and the charisma and the know-how the business works like Ric Flair. And with the exception would be Bret Hart. You know, Bret Hart knew how the business worked because he was in the family business. You know, their family wrestled. You know, Stu was an amazing wrestler. You know, I think what Bret was lacking was that Flair charisma. You know, if you're going to take any negative on Bret Hart, he didn't have that enigmatic charisma.
Not at first.
Not at first. No, not at first. He was a lot more charismatic when he was heel than when he was a baby face, you know. His first pay-per-view defense was against Shawn Michaels at Survivor Series 92. And then, of course, we all know about the WrestleMania 9, where he lost to Yokozuna, and then Hogan, the blue-eyed babyface, rolls into the ring and beats Yokozuna and gets the belt. So Bret loses the belt.
Was not happy about it.
No. It didn't make sense.
He took it as a slap in the face,
mm-hmm.
And took it as a shot as him as the guy.
Yeah,
like you got to bring Hogan back. Like what the heck?
Yeah, and they didn't need to bring Hogan back because Bret was capable of carrying the company. It's Vince and everybody else.
At this point, in Germany and the rest of the world, he was huge.
Oh yeah, he was not. He was huge everywhere except in America.
In the rest of the world,
yeah. He did get a rematch against Yokozuna at Superstars, but lost after Owen tried to help his brother and letting Mr. Fuji interfere for the win. And then the next night on Raw, the same thing happened. You need a monster heel for the babyface to chase. Yeah. That's just good wrestling business. You got to have a monster heel, and there was no heel as monstrous as Yokozuna.
And what's amazing about Bret is he was able to wrestle with small guys, big guys like Bam Bam Bigelow and Yokozuna, and the match was still amazing. Didn't matter what you look like or your body type.
Yeah, and you know, for those who don't know, Yokozuna, he's actually not Japanese. He is Samoan. He is part of the other big wrestling family, and that is the Anoa'i family, or the Anoa'i family, or however they pronounce it. But he is flat out Samoan, and for as big as he was a little nimble than I remember. I watched a couple of matches, and he could get around. You know, for somebody with that kind of heft, he certainly got around. He went into he had a thing with Lawler, which was going to accumulate at Survivor Series, but because of legal issues with Jerry the King Lawler, because well, we'll get into that later.
Oh, yeah, that's a future episode. So
that's a future episode.
We're going to talk about that later.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels took the place of Lawler, and with Lawler's Knights, who were masked wrestlers, including Greg the Hammer Valentine was one of them. They were defeated by the Hart family, Keith, and I think Bret, Owen, and I can't remember the fourth one that was there. But Owen blamed. Owen was the only one that got pinned, and was eliminated from the Survivor Series match. So Owen kind of sort of blamed Bret during a promo,
and this led up to the big feud between Bret and Owen. And originally they wanted Bruce to be the guy feuding with Bret.
Yeah,
and Bret came to Vince. He's like, no.
Yeah, it's got to be my younger brother Owen. It's got to be the youngest.
Yeah, he's the best wrestler out of my brothers.
Yeah, and this is where WWE was so much different then as it is now. Here, there's no patience. They have to, if a storyline's not clicking, they're going to eliminate the storyline as quick as possible. Yeah. Here, you're talking about almost a year and a half worth of story building, and they started that kernel and grew it into a tree. They started with a little seed. And that was Owen blaming Bret for the loss at Survivor Series, or for him being eliminated. And that's what builds this up. Now, what also happened was, now you're talking several months later, at the Royal Rumble, one of the opening matches was Bret and Owen versus the Quebecers. And Bret had a kayfabe knee injury, and at the end of the match, Owen focused on it and attacked his brother and went after the kayfabe bad knee, and basically, at that point went full blast heel on Bret and blamed him for everything, because they lost the tag team belts. They didn't get a chance to wear them, and Owen blamed his brother for basically blamed his brother for them not winning the titles. And then that same night at the Royal Rumble, it's down to Bret and Luger, the narcissist, and both guys go over the top rope and land on the floor at the same time. So they declare it a draw, and both men will go ahead and compete against Yokozuna at WrestleMania 10 for the belt. Luger goes first and loses. Thank God. Yes. I'm not a Luger fan at all. Bret went second, and beat Yokozuna for the strap for the second time.
We'll back up here because we had the Owen versus Bret match at the beginning of the show.
Yes. Yeah.
And we got to mention that before.
We do have to mention
that match is one of the best Bret Hart matches of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. WrestleMania, it's Bret versus Owen, and it's brother versus brother. And Stu and Helen are with the family. They're all watching it. Before we even get to that, let's talk about the vignettes that they were running during the holidays, Thanksgiving or American Thanksgiving and Christmas, of them at home trying to repair this relationship between Bret and Owen. Yeah. And it just completely falls apart. Like, they're the worst dysfunctional family in all of wrestling.
I remember
and then WrestleMania, it's brother versus brother.
They had to do this all the time, though, on the road and hating on each other on the road. And so they were on a plane together one time, and they broke kayfabe.
Yeah.
And they were chatting like they were brothers. And one of the people beside them says, "I knew it." And they're like, "Oh, you got us."
And, kayfabe for me was ruined a lot earlier than that. And that's something we'll get in on a future episode as well. When your two wrestlers who don't like each other are busted for drugs while driving together. Yeah, that's when kayfabe got ruined for me. Yeah. As soon as I found out, I was like, maybe wrestling's not as real.
But I don't think they even do that today like they do it back in the day. You wouldn't have two guys hating on each other on the same plane, right? Like,
absolutely.
Once the show is over, I think they don't worry about that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, in the era of social media, a lot of the wrestlers praise other wrestlers from other promotions all the time. Kayfabe is not.
It's not dead. It's just different.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah. So then they started he started a feud with Diesel while still feuding with Owen. And of course at SummerSlam, the steel cage match against Owen, which he won. The blue steel cage is one of my favorite steel cages of all time.
Now Meltzer admits that he screwed up. He only gave it 4 stars.
Yeah.
4.5 stars.
Yeah.
And he said, I should have given it 5 stars.
Yeah, absolutely. We
Save
can talk
the pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, we could talk about Meltzer on another episode because, yeah, there's issues with Dave Meltzer and his star rating system for sure. But, yeah, the one thing that didn't make sense to me was Survivor Series. They made him drop the belt against Bob Backlund. And then 3 days later, Bob Backlund drops the belt to Diesel.
Well, what I did like about that is Owen throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
Costing him the championship.
Yeah.
Story-wise, I loved it.
Well, they were begging.
Yeah.
They were begging Stu and Helen to throw the towel in because it was an I Quit match. And they said no. And then Owen grabs the towel and throws it into the ring. Still some seeds that are being sown at that time, obviously with the brotherly discourse between the two of them. But yeah, so then Diesel beats Bob Backlund in 8 seconds. He power bombs him, pins him, and it's over. So it doesn't make sense to me. And even Bret has said that it never made sense to lose to Bob Backlund, or for Bob Backlund at least to lose to Diesel.
Well, he was in that cross-faced chicken wing for a long time before. And Brad even said, like, I was in that hole for a very long time.
Yeah, but eventually Bret Hart gets a third reign as the champion. He beats Diesel in a no DQ at Survivor Series in '95. Then he fought a heel, Davey Boy Smith, at In Your House Season Beatings, where he beat Davey Boy Smith. And then he faced Shawn at WrestleMania 12 in a 60-minute Iron match. Let's talk about the Iron match, because to me, that's the best match from that World Championship reign. For him and Shawn Michaels to last 60 minutes with the way they wrestle is amazing, because these guys are
Bret's running on this long, icy trail in Calgary.
Yeah.
Sean's got these cool vignettes in the sun, like
with Jose Lothario. Yeah. And I remember those vignettes of Bret running on these icy roads in Calgary. It just cracked me up because I'm like, is it snow all the time in Canada that I don't know about? But yeah, I mean,
Calgary gets cold in the winter.
Yeah. And it was awesome to see the build-up for this match, because to sell the 60 minutes, you have to show that these guys are training differently than they normally would. But they went the distance with no pinfalls, no submissions, no countouts. It was tied 0-0, and the referee said it's a draw. And Gorilla Monsoon says, oh, no, not so fast. It's sudden death overtime, like in hockey. And for the Stanley Cup,
what I love about that is Bret had him in the sharpshooter. Time ran out.
Yep.
So Bret thought he won.
Yeah, he had him in the sharpshooter
for the Fugazi sort of finish that kind of helped Bret still have a light on him.
Yeah, and he had him in the sharpshooter for 30 seconds. And Shawn Michaels refused to tap out. But he did lose in sudden death, and Shawn became the world champion. This is also the time when Bret received his very first offer from WCW. It's not speculated, it's fact. 3 years, $9 million. WWF countered with a 20-year contract.
Was really worried.
Yeah.
At the time of him jumping ship.
Yeah, this is a time when wrestling is on the downslope. This is a few years before. This is about a year, maybe a little bit less than a year before NWO shows up.
Okay,
In
so
WWE.
we're kind of at the 45-minute mark here. Can we fast forward to the Hart Foundation and to that era so we can get everything in?
Yeah, well, that's the next one is up.
Okay, so we had that promo
Yeah,
where Davey Boy and Owen are fighting. Bret comes in. Oh my goodness. Owen's crying, Bret's crying, they hug. What one of the best wrestling segments ever.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he was gone for 8 months from TV. He comes back, he reunites with them, and he gets into a really great program. This is why I like to call the Steve Austin program from 96 to 97. Stone Cold wins King of the Ring, and then for the next 8 months, goads Bret Hart, challenges Bret Hart openly, get your butt back to WWF and let's fight. Let's do this. He beat Stone Cold clean, which doesn't happen very often during this era. At Survivor Series, he was eliminated when in the Royal Rumble. He was eliminated when Austin, who was already eliminated, slid back into the ring and tossed Bret over, eliminating him. Referees didn't realize this, that Steve Austin was eliminated and won the Royal Rumble. That was his first.
So this led to the whiny Bret.
Yes.
Right there.
So Shawn, who lost his smile, vacated the belt, and Bret beat Stone Cold Steve Austin, Vader, and Taker for the belt at the In Your House Final Four.
Which was just a Royal Rumble sort of Final Four.
Yeah, exactly. And then he dropped the belt to Psycho Sid. Obviously, Sid wasn't playing softball. He was wrestling at that point. And that allowed the grudge match, WrestleMania 13, the double turn. So let's talk about the double turn. You had Bret, who was the babyface, and Austin, who was the heel. Bret,
they did such a good job. Bret was leading this match, and they weren't allowed to have blood at this time. But Bret insisted, if you want to get over, you got to have blood on you.
Yeah,
and so he said, "Don't worry, I'll take the heat on this."
Yeah,
and
Stone Cold bladed and was in the sharpshooter for almost like 45 seconds and passed out from blood loss, and
that blood shot of him in the sharpshooter is iconic now.
Oh yeah. And then what makes it even over the top is now the crowd is rooting for Stone Cold, and Bret takes the turn and starts beating the ever-living hell out of an unconscious Stone Cold Steve Austin, now becomes a heel. That double turn, it's been done many times before. It's been done many times after, but it has never been as good as the double turns at WrestleMania 13. But the profanity-laced promo and him shoving Vince as a commentator is what's considered to be the start of the Attitude Era. That's exactly when the Attitude Era really started, was that. And, of course, this kicked off the anti-American. So, like we were saying, all over the world, Bret is beloved and cherished. Canada, he is royalty. In America, he is scum. We hate him. We don't like him.
And this is where Bret comes into his own.
Yeah.
As a promo guy.
Yes, absolutely.
And I can easily say no one could touch him with those promos he was giving on Monday Night Raw every night.
No, nobody got even close. I mean, the fact that he was like, in Canada, we take care of our elderly and we take care of our sick, and that's what makes us better than you is 1,000 million times better than what anybody was putting out.
And he would say, America, love it or leave it. I love leaving it.
He played the greatest heel. He had bouts with the Patriot. He had bouts with Taker, Shawn Michaels. He did take the belt off of Taker at SummerSlam after Shawn hit him in the head with a chair.
That also was huge in Canada. It was almost like a Stanley Cup win all across Canada. Everyone was freaking out.
Yeah. And then, of course, we come to 97, Survivor Series, the Montreal Screwjob. It's been done to death. I don't think there's anything we can add to it.
I don't think we need to say much on that.
Yeah. Basically, Sean put Bret in the sharpshooter, and Earl Hebner rang the bell without Bret submitting. It went nuts. He spit on Vince. He signed WCW in the air, and that was it. That was the end of Bret Hart in WWE. He was in WCW from 97 to 2000. He won the U.S. Heavyweight Championship. He won big gold. He won Goldie once. But thanks to a thrust kick to the head by Goldberg, gave him a massive, massive concussion.
We'll bring up the big moment.
Yeah.
When Bret Hart quit WCW to kind of rehab an injury. Where Goldberg comes in to spear him. He's got the plate underneath. He's in the Toronto crowd. One of the greatest moments in WCW for Bret was right there, where he pins Goldberg 1, 2, 3. What a pop!
Yeah, it's his WCW run was horrible. He was completely not utilized the same way WWE would have utilized.
And once he started getting the things, injuries screwed it up. I was enjoying the Bret Hart led NWO.
Yes,
all that that would have been so cool to get that when they only had top guys in it. Would have been great, but
and he was inducted in 2006 by Stone Cold into the WWE Hall of Fame. He was inducted again in 2019 as part of the Hart Foundation. Owen died when he was in WCW. I don't think WCW was a good memory of his at all. His run in WCW, he never speaks highly of it. I know he still blames Goldberg for basically ending his career with that.
It cost him a lot of money.
Oh yeah,
all those guys who got to sit at home making all that money, he didn't get it because he was injured.
Yeah, Bret actually was let go by WCW by FedEx, which is infamous. Eric Bischoff likes to eliminate his. He likes to eliminate fire his wrestlers by FedEx rather than calling them. So let's talk about his legend, his legacy, and his influence.
Okay, so there's this awesome Sports Illustrated article that came out this last year. And I just posted it on F and Wrestling group page here, so have a look. But it talks about all the wrestlers that pretty much studied at the Bret Hart knowledge tree. And just, you got Kenny Omega. Hold on, I got a really good quote here from Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega said, "Every time I thought about the matches that changed my perspective on professional wrestling, or the ones that showed me a different layer to pro wrestling, or what it could be, each one was a Bret Hart match." FTR, they got a call, or they got a text from Bret Hart after leaving WWE, refusing all those contracts, and so they said FDR was like, the guy who punched Vince McMahon in the face, he took the time out of his day to text us and tell us how proud he was of us. And FDR was big Bret Hart guys. You also got Jonathan Gresham of Ring of Honor. You got Kevin Owens. You got Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, who wanted to be professional wrestlers, and they're like, well, how do we do it? And Sheamus was like, we're going to watch some Bret Hart matches to figure this out. And Sheamus actually met Bret Hart at a nightclub.
Oh, cool.
And before he was a professional wrestler, and Bret kind of sent him on a direction on how to do it and got him started in wrestling. And it's just all this legacy that Bret Hart has.
I don't think, there are guys like Seth Rollins AJ Styles, you named quite a few that have all listed Kevin Owens. Yeah, Kevin Owens too as
Edge.
Edge, who have all said that they learned more from watching Bret Hart wrestle than they could have ever learned in a school or on the job. And that's kind of where his legacy.
Chris Jericho as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He was more an Owen guy.
Yeah, Chris Jericho liked Owen, but Chris Jericho very much wrestled like Bret Hart. And that's the thing, when you look at, everybody likes to talk about the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling, and or who's the GOAT, and you get into these top 5 and top 10 and top 4 lists and stuff. Bret Hart is on a list each and every time. And if you aren't putting Bret Hart in that upper echelon, you've never truly watched a Bret Hart match.
See, I have a way of judging who's a good wrestler.
Yeah.
And that is Bret Hart.
Yeah.
I see if you don't do things like Bret, or even to the level that Bret does them, like he's the measuring stick.
Yeah. If you he's the measuring stick. He's right here. If you're not measuring up, you're failing as a wrestler,
And part of the reason, sorry to pop on Natalia Markova again, is part of the reason the first match I watched in Natalia Markova, she was coming from behind to beat our friend that was on the show, Wode, yes, to beat Wode, and she came from behind to pick up the victory.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew I really appreciated Natalia Markova, because she did that Bret Hart style of underdog, take a beating, and that's how I knew she was a good wrestler.
Yep. I mean, to me, his legacy will always be that he loved the business, and I think he loved it more than sometimes the business loved him. And it's a shame, because I think there were a lot of people who took advantage of him, and WWE had the opportunity, and you have to understand, I mean, WWE at the time was near bankruptcy. I mean, WCW was beating them in the ratings.
Yeah.
They were beating them in every imaginable way, merchandise and everything. And WWE was really close to packing it all in and filing for bankruptcy. And it was Vince saying, I can't pay you, take the WCW money and go with it, and, Bret did, Bret was going to go regardless, and, with the screw job and everything else. But, I think people didn't realize how much respect he has for the business, and he still does. And
he had so much respect from guys like Ken Shamrock was going to go with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Said, you know what? You should probably just stay. And he told him not to. And that's cool that Bret didn't just take all these guys with him.
Yeah. Yeah. Bret could easily have said, hey guys, let's pack it up and leave. And
took half that locker room with him.
Yeah. And gone to WCW and made all this money and stuff. But for Bret, I don't think it was ever about the money. That's the reason why he stayed with WWE.
Said, I'm not hungry for money. I'm hungry for respect.
Yeah. And, he could have he would have made more money in 3 years with WCW than he would have in 3 years with Vince. But he respected Vince. He saw Vince as a father figure and decided, that's what I've been loyal to Vince. I'm going to stay loyal and stay with him with the 20-year contract. And then Vince telling him, I can't pay you, go to WCW,
they always have the who's better, Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart. And I want to say this, Shawn Michaels was a hell of a performer.
Yeah.
And a hell of a showman.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there is no wrestler on this planet like Bret the Hitman Hart.
Preach it, brother.
The way he sold every little detail, he was right into every little detail of every match, and that's what makes him the best wrestler to ever walk the planet.
Absolutely. That man mapped out a match like there was no tomorrow. And you see it every time that you watch a Bret Hart show and watch Bret Hart wrestle. You saw the excellence, literally the excellence of execution.
And what I like about Bret is he's a genuine nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He's definitely not.
He's not full of himself.
Nope.
He's not, he'd sit down and talk to people. And
yeah.
And we have a friend, Angie, Adrian Adonis's daughter.
Yeah.
And so she's really been on this journey to discover more about her dad.
Yeah.
And she's talked to Ken Patera and Cowboy Bob Orton. And she talked to one of Bret's brothers.
Yeah.
And to find out about Adrian. He said, well, Bret's the one to talk to. And so one of Bret's brothers passed the number along to Bret Hart.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of guy he is. He called her and talked to her for about 45 minutes about her dad.
Yeah.
To fill her in on all the gaps
that
she needed to know about Adrian. And
yeah,
that's just class.
Yeah. Who else would have done that? No one. No one would have taken that opportunity that Bret does, And I mean, the great thing about Bret is, he's not like a lot of these old time wrestlers that are still clinging on to the business brother. Who
do you mean?
I have no idea, but Bret didn't, he's a grandfather, he's a dad, he's married to a beautiful woman. They have a great family. He's got a great life. He's had health issues, the stroke, post-concussion syndrome, and all that other stuff, but he's enjoying the best life he can.
And I'm just happy. Like, Bret had a lot of bitterness over the years and a lot of hurt and stuff, but it's nice to see him kind of come out on the other side, enjoying his life as a grandpa and a family man.
Yep. So next week we are doing our favorite wrestling games. We're going to have a special guest. We won't announce him on here, but we will announce him when we get him in the Worldwide Studios. He will be talking about some of our favorite wrestling games of all time. And you can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook. We might have a TikTok coming soon. Our website is being developed as we speak.
And we got just another effing podcast shirt.
Yes. Select the host, where you get to select which host that is going to be on your shirt. It is an awesome shirt. It's $19.99.
It's coming by wagon.
It is at www.prowrestlingtees.com/effing wrestling. And on that note, have you heard from Hulk Hogan?
No, Hulk Hogan is still dodging me. But maybe one day he will pass the torch.
Yeah.
To just another effing podcast and come on the show. And so was that 9?
10
for Canada Dry?
10.
10?
Yeah.
10-0, Hulk Hogan. What you gonna do, brother, when Bret the Hitman Hart comes down on you? Ding, 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 ding.